Solo, my man.
Mark and Steve together again.
And we're
like
back.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Guess who's back? Back again. That doesn't really go with this background
It
music.
doesn't, but we can make it work.
Yeah, so I mean, just to get right into it, I know there's a lot of stuff going on.
So last week I went solo, but
You
it wasn't too bad. And I needed you here to rein me in, though. I mean, it was.
Did you go off on a? I did watch your show. I did watch your episode. You did good.
Well, it was like there were some things I was trying to say, and without having you here to kind of bring me back, it would reel me back in. It was like I went on from one thing to another, but it was fun. I had a good time doing it, and we needed to make sure that one of us are here every week and
keep the show
going because we're busy, but and we try to do it together because it's fun, and we play off each other really well, and but now we need to. Even if it's going to just be one of us needs to come in and do it. So.
Well, that's right. Yeah. So I know we were going to get into some local news. I did. I know there was an update on the Rhonda Abersold murder that occurred. Abersol. All right. See, that's why I need you. I mean, I'm still learning. But she was, it was determined a homicide, but it was not of natural causes. So they've been investigating. The Sheriff's Department released an update, I believe it's not too long ago, but there's been a lot of warrants issued, and there's still a lot of hush-hush about it because they're wanting to, somebody's going to screw up and they're going to get caught. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's the, when these things come up like that, you don't want to have... you don't want to put all your cards out there and say this is what we have and where we're going with it because you may not have enough to convict somebody and you're still gathering evidence or maybe maybe there's a more to it than just the standard homicide or murder. Or
it was the butler with the candlestick.
Yeah, so you got to get all your facts straight and get everything in a row, and I think the Sheriff's Department is trying to do that. It is, obviously everybody wants us to come to a conclusion because it is a little nerve-wracking that somebody's out there that...
Do you think drugs are involved?
I don't know, but it could be. But
suspect.
It's I think anything's on the table right now.
Sure.
As far as it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat, right? We don't know. You don't know until you actually see the evidence and see what's going on. So it's... it's a sad situation, and I think that the Sheriff's Department's doing the best they can with the resources and the time they have and the information that they have. So sometimes you just don't get everything handed to you. You have to.
They've executed over 20 warrants. They've probably done more than that since their last update. But anyone with information pertaining to this murder is asked to contact the Meade County Sheriff's Office detectives at 270-422-4937 or 270-945-1810. Anonymous tips may be submitted to the MCSO line at 270-422-4673. Anyway, but they've got more than just the county sheriff involved. The Kentucky State Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, and the Meade County Commonwealth Attorney's Office, they're all involved in investigating the case. And I'm sure that, the local Meade Countyans want some closure on this too. So, I mean, it's not good to know that we've got somebody that committed a murder in our small town community. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a little nerve-wracking in that it's this person's maybe still be out there, and it does seem like it must have been an isolated incident of some sort because you would think that by now that would have been something else or something else happened, but I still feel safe going in and out and around there, and but when it happened. I went and checked on my loved ones and made sure that everybody was safe and such because you just don't know in that moment.
Loaded gun ready to go by the bedside.
You don't know. You don't know.
Speaking of cowards and running and hiding from their guilt and sin, speaking of, there's a lot of attack ads going out in the governor's race.
There is. I mean, I've heard from people saying, well, they don't like these attack ads or these negative ads. And, well, you have to be able to remind people about what's going on. But it's sad that there's there's people out there putting so much money into this race because they because they want to see free and open abortions for everybody. And you know, I've looked at a lot of things up and talked to some folks, and you know, here's the thing: abortion is, you know, I think the majority of people just abhor abortion. They don't want abortion to be free and open. But the other side always brings up the other side of that, and I'm, you know, when I say the other side, I'm talking about the pro-choice crowd. They always bring up, well, what about rape and incest, right? Well, I mean, you're talking about less than 1% of incident of abortions are done in those cases. But here's what you get: you get an attack ad from Andy Bashir, whatever his name is,
Andy Biden,
and you hear him.
He's for LGBTQ, right?
Yeah.
Let's get Joe Biden to quit.
You saw that.
Let's get Joe Biden to quit.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
But you know what he said is, you know, these ads that they put out, and he'll say, well, those are not my ads, but come on, they're your ads.
So actually, there are ads. He's targeting specifically that. Under Daniel Cameron's legislation, women who are raped won't be able to have an abortion.
Not just a 9-year-old girl.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, but you can turn that right around to the lady that's saying that in the commercial and say, you want to kill babies because you want to kill a baby just because. You know, this happened. You want to punish the baby and not the criminal.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's insane that you don't.
It's the wedge that the Democrats want to use.
It's the one they have.
It's the one wedge that they have, and you know, and Roe v. Wade has now been overturned. It's, you know, creating a lot of controversy. What sickens me is it's not just the attack ad, but it's the amount of money that comes into the state.
It's a huge amount of money
to prevent Kentuckians from voting in their own laws. Now, I talked to several women during the vote yes to Amendment 2. They called asking, does that mean that if my daughter's raped that she can't have an abortion? I said, yes. It says it means that you can't have an abortion and have it paid for by any taxpayer's money, but that's a decision you two need to make between you and your doctor.
Yeah, I mean, what the vote yes did, what the amendment did, was just clarify it within the Constitution that the Constitution doesn't give doesn't have any. You can't imply a right to an abortion within it. It did not go into and say abortion was not and say that abortion was not it did not amend the Constitution of Kentucky to say that abortions were not ever allowed.
Yeah.
What it did do was clarify the language to say this is not, you can't, a judge or somebody down the road could not just imply that there was something there. And it's sad that we have to do that because normally you don't have to, whenever a document is written, you don't have to say that there's a right to
After
something.
Years of sexual
I have the attack ad. Let's hear it real fast and pick it apart.
I was raped by my stepfather after years of sexual abuse. I was 12. Anyone who believes there should be no exceptions for rape and incest could never understand what it's like to stand in my shoes. This is to you, Daniel Cameron. To tell a 12-year-old girl she must have the baby of...
So I want to pick this apart. She said she's been raped for years as a 12-year-old. So this is the part I don't understand is why don't we have systems and methods? She's going to school. She has to report to school at 12 years old. We need to have better programs that allow girls like that to
that's the first
stand up, right? So that you can prevent.
We do have things in place.
Prevention.
We do have things in place.
Absolutely.
And obviously these things still happen. And I'm not blaming this little girl about that. But at the same time, you know, this is a very, very seldom incidence. So what they're saying is because this might happen sometimes, occasionally.
That's right.
Very rarely.
We should allow all women to have.
We should let every woman have an abortion up to the time of. I mean, that's just crazy.
In the third trimester. In the third trimester.
I mean, we've already seen that there's women that this goes so far that they even want to wait until the baby is born to decide to kill it.
Right.
You know, that's the extreme that they said would never happen, but we saw them bringing it up and trying to get it done in all these in other states. And it's like, that's, so here's the thing. There are sad instances of when when an abortion might be necessary. Mothers dying mother's going to die, right? Well, if the mother dies, the baby is likely going to die as well, depending on how far along they are. So it's unfortunate that me, I believe that God can heal all things, and work for the betterment of all of us. But at the same time, I understand that this is a complex thought and decision that's being made by a mother who's like, man, she just finds out she's pregnant, and now here's the thing. We don't know if that baby's going to be affected by whatever's going on. We don't know it's going to kill her. It's a doctor giving that opinion, and I understand that we go to the doctors and we do things we go to the doctor as an expert and expect them to give us good information. But you also don't know if that doctor just leans towards, hey, it would be so much easier if we just didn't have to deal with this pregnancy right now. So you should, it's going to affect your life. It's going to affect whether or not we can treat you or not. So
here's a turnaround on
commuted the sentence of this predatory felon. Nathan Nichols struck again, sexually abusing a young child, not even 12.
He let this dude out.
Another door shuts.
Yeah.
Another Bashir
this is Andy Bashir. Let this out.
Yeah. So you got a 12-year-old that says my daddy rapes me. Daniel Cameron doesn't support, but I'm letting the rapist out who can go rape somebody else.
Yeah.
So that we can pipeline abortions into.
It's like cut off one side. Cut off the flow of rapists going back to the community,
right?
So that we don't have this as an issue, and then this will be less and less of an issue, and it's so frustrating. Abortion is such a frustrating topic, and I just don't. I just think that there's no good reason to have an abortion.
So I want to go into
and the fact that this has become, they're holding this up. They're going to say, well, Daniel Cameron's not going. You don't want Daniel Cameron to be your governor because he wants a 9-year-old. He doesn't want a 9-year-old to have a baby from a rape. I mean, that's what they're saying. And these people have proven. These people who put these ads out have proven, because a lot of this is paid through for Planned Parenthood and such, because that's their livelihood. That's their money. They want to make money off of those abortions.
I want Planned Parenthood banned from Kentucky.
So when you see those ads, a lot of the times that money is coming from Planned Parenthood because they want to open up clinics back in Kentucky.
Yeah, there's money in aborted babies for stem cells. In fact,
stem cells, other research.
Before I get into that, because I'm going to transition into that. So just want to be clear. So when Bashir released one particular candidate from prison, he was 5 years out, and he wanted to commute sentences for COVID. During COVID, he commuted sentences. Why? I don't know. Leave them in jail. If they die because of COVID, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Finish your term. Sucks to be you. But he let these guys out. So, they're saying that the conservatives twisted in the narrative to go and attack him. But truthfully, you let out somebody early, 5 years early, to go into the community and who's a known rapist, right? Twice convicted, and goes in there, and then he's concerned, right? So, and then you're concerned, Andy Bashir, about a 12-year-old, which the percentage is extremely...
You're overmodulating a little bit. You're going to pull your...
Anyway, so the point is that you've got Bashir posting one thing and then hypocritically releasing the same person that would cause rape and incest, that would cause a young teenage to get raped. And it's sad that she says that it was by her father, but
let's prevent the rape.
Yeah.
Let's
castrate the rapist so he can't go back out.
We've got to start thinking about something more. We have to think about what's a bigger deterrent for these crimes.
That's right.
In Kentucky, I believe that we have strong law enforcement. I believe that they are. I believe that they do a good job. They work hard. I know a lot of good police officers out there, and I support them 100%. Now, are there some bad apples out there? Of course there are. There's bad apples in every job position. There's bad apples in there's bad apples in politics. There's bad apples in the military. There's bad apples everywhere. And our job is we need to weed those folks out when we can identify them and make our streets safer, because we don't want to stop assuming that people are guilty and start working. You see a lot of for every bad incident that happens in law enforcement, there's good ones out there too, and you just don't see them as often. But now you see a lot more of those videos on YouTube and stuff where you have this guy over here's a bad apple, but then they're getting punished. You're starting to see those people get punished in such a way, which is really
quick snapshot. There's 4,518,031 people in Kentucky, and out of all of those people, the number of rape cases that occurred in 2023, which are far too many, but we're one of the lowest in the country, but it's 1,572 rape cases. Now, if I was to tell you how many abortions from rape occurred in Kentucky, it's also pretty low, but 1,572 people who would have been raped. These are the individuals that would have been the special few, assuming that they all got pregnant and had children, but that's not necessarily the case in all these situations.
I mean, you're looking at, it's a matter of what's reality. The reality is that there's very few times where rape ends in a pregnancy, and there's very few times that rape ends up in an abortion. So or what have you. So this is a cause of why you should allow wide open abortions in your state is just a fallacy. It's not an accurate depiction. It's right at the borderline of a lie when they say this. That's not what they want. They want free and open abortions as often as they can get them, because Planned Parenthood wants to be able to put the abortion mill right back in Kentucky and keep on chucking and making their money off of the unborn fetuses. I mean, it's so indignant. It's like they are so. I mean, there's no dignity to this at all. Where they take the fetus and say, oh well, we're gonna put it over here in this bin and we're gonna sell it to somebody to use it. So that baby doesn't even get a proper burial or a proper
because they're going to take
it's sad.
They're going to take the materials from the baby. Stem cells are a big commodity. It's like mining for gold. Anyway, it's frustrating, but the abortion rate in Kentucky right now is 1,500, right? Let's just say, and they say that where was it at? The number of abortions that occurred from incestual rape was like between 20 and 30% of that. So, math problem, It's enough to worry about as a Christian.
Yeah,
but it's also it would seem to me that if you're gonna vote one way towards everybody can have their own choice, woman's right, absolutely okay. Then stop releasing the sexual predators. You know what I mean? Take them off the street. Make laws harsher for the sexual predators.
Make it harder for them to get released. Make it harder for them to. Let's make it harder. I mean, let's pay attention.
How about we make it easier for the person to get help and also identify that they're being raped over and over again?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, there's a real problem out there because what makes it even harder is when there's women out there and young girls who will cry rape when it's not really rape, and then that makes it even harder to find the real ones, because and you've seen that in different cases where they either were embarrassed because they got caught, or and they were like they didn't want to own up to that they had sex or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying this is a lot of them. I'm just saying that they're out there. So there's a group that's like this, where they're crying foul when it's not really a foul, and they're crying rape when it's not really a rape. And then there's all these others that go unknown because that might go unknown or not be able to catch the perpetrator because who do you when you're going and investigating these things, you're trying to who do you believe? Because sometimes it's not real, and sometimes it's absolutely real. So now you have to go, as you're investigating and you're trying to go do the right thing, you're trying not to ruin everybody's life. As law enforcement, they're trying not to ruin everybody's life. The child, the accused adult, the family at large. They're trying to do whatever they can. But at the same time, they're going to try to protect that child first, right? So yes, it may come up that it wasn't real, and it may be, but you have to let the police officers go through the motions, and it's going to be tough. And so I think that you should always side on the side of protecting the child.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want to be cognizant of that this may not have happened. And you have to make sure that you have the right evidence and stuff to convict somebody, to know that they did this, and so that you can, But when you do, once you have that, get them off the street, keep them in jail. Long sentences for rapists. Long, it's hard. It's hard to ever say, hey, you should, you should have a death penalty for rape victims or whatever. That's not my. I don't think but I don't think that you should get out very easily. I think this should be a very, very long sentence, that you should be put in jail. You should be put in the harshest of prisons, and that you should, as far as length of time and the highest security is what I mean by harshness. And so I don't think the United States really has harsh jails anymore, because almost everything is. Pretty much you get you have a job, you do things, or you get your meals, you get your obviously you got other criminals around you that may do things to you or what have you, but that's don't do bad things.
Well, there's a lot of bad things out there.
There are.
Speaking of bad things, there's some good things coming up in the area.
So let's switch gears a little bit. I mean, hold
on, let's do it this way.
I wanted to have one last thought.
In this next segment, go ahead. What's your last thought?
All right,
I'm going to do that button again, though.
Okay, I don't blame you, because it would have worked really well if I would have just gotten this last thought in.
Go ahead.
The point of all this about the ads and things is, listen, those of you here in Meade County, Brett County, Hardin County, whoever may be listening tonight, Daniel Cameron is a great, upstanding man. He's a believer. He's a God-fearing man, and he's trying to do everything right for as many people in Kentucky as possible. Mm-hmm. He is from this area. He has grown up with our values, and I know that Meade County is a God-fearing county. I know that most people here consider themselves Christian. Most people here do not believe in that abortion is the right thing to do. They don't believe that LGBTQ issues should be taught in the schools. The parents should have more say about what's going on in our schools on a day-to-day basis. And they want to have the right to be able to choose what school their child goes to, whether that's a public school or a different public school than they're in now, or if they want to or if a private school, and if they need monies to help them with that, that's something that we all need to look at, and we need to think about that when we go to the polls, because you're not going to get that from Andy Beshear. Andy Beshear, one, doesn't work with our legislature at all.
Doesn't stand behind his other people.
He doesn't. He'll talk about how I've signed this many bills or what have you.
That's not true.
But it's not. He said it's something like 601 bills, and I couldn't find 601 bills. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to find bills, but because they do about 200 or so bills a year, and we know that he has vetoed most of the bills that have come through in the last year or so. So I don't know how he could have been in 3 years.
He's a big fan of gambling, right? He's like, he wants to suck. Well, he thinks that he can fund a lot of things with that, school pensions and some other stuff. But he would rather us gamble and create the problems that gambling brings in the state, because the money's going across the river or whatever. But hey, another point that I wanted to make about this is, I don't care which one gets elected. Well, I do care which one gets elected, but whichever one gets elected, I would tell you this, that the issue of abortion will never be in the hands of the governor. It'll be hands of the people. Just like the amendment was written to put it in place in Kentucky. So without the people's vote, none of that stuff's going to move forward. Even if Daniel Cameron came in and wanted to do it, or the legislature wanted to come in and do it, it's going to have to come back out to the people to vote on it. People. Yes. So don't get wrapped up in the abortion clause in this demonstration against who should run for office.
I mean,
or who should be elected.
Yeah, most people realize now that Roe v. Wade, all it did is when it was enacted, or when it was settled in 1970s, all it did was said that it was the governor, it was the U.S. government creating overreach to say everybody in the United States had a right to an abortion, when it's not written in the Constitution. And anything that's not written into the Constitution of the United States, it's left to the states to decide. And that's what this decision here. Last year, 2 years ago? Is it last year?
It was last year.
Was last year, June
22. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it seems like it was
June 24th. Yeah, actually.
Yeah. So it was. So that's all that decision did. All it did was said, okay, you know what? Each state, California, you want to have abortion rights. You want to be able to. You want to pay for all the abortions. That's California. Kentucky's not going to say anything about California. All we're saying is, over here in Kentucky, don't say we have to have it. Right.
That's right.
If the people of Kentucky we have elected legislatures, we have elected senators to go to Frankfurt and to make these decisions, and we've asked them. Most of us have asked them to not allow abortion in Kentucky, right? That's what we're saying. If Indiana wants to have it, Kentucky doesn't. We're not going to say what Indiana can do.
That's right.
So we have the right in Kentucky to live the way we want to live.
And I understand the concerns that went with like all the states blocking the ability for a woman to have an abortion. I remember that. Yeah. In fact, there was a great movie. It was with Patrick Swayze, and it was where he's dancing and stuff, and one of their friends needs an abortion, and they had it with the old coat hanger or whatever.
No, they went to a bad doctor that was like traveling
really
through,
bad.
Mm-hmm. All the instruments were dirty, and they did that because they wanted to say that's what the alternative was. You don't realize that a lot of people don't realize that when you see these things in the movies, they're actually trying to communicate to you,
which is what Hollywood has done for years.
Yes, they've done that through.
They're selling their narrative.
Yes, and that's the thing. We've allowed Hollywood to creep into everything we do, and it's created problems. I mean, this child that this kid that ran over the sheriff's out, and I mean that's.
Let me ask you a question.
Where did that come from? That came from
how many
the video games and stuff.
How many pastors in Meade County do you think would offer any sort of advice on getting an abortion in this county?
I don't know of any.
Okay. And how many people do you think attend church services in this county?
On a weekly basis, not enough. But it's
Would you say that the majority of the voting population are probably attending church?
I do not think so.
Okay.
I think that it's probably more like 35% or 40% that are attending on a weekly basis. Now, most of them say that they are a Christian. It's just that they're not necessarily going to church every week,
or that they don't believe in things like this, or they believe in things like this.
I think a lot of people don't. They don't want to trounce on other people. They don't want to seem like they're trouncing on other people's rights.
Well, they're worried about their own rights. They're worried about their own rights.
They are worried about their own rights, but they also don't want to trounce on other people's rights because it's like, well, the thing is that at some point somebody's got to stand up and say, the baby has rights. That life was created. It's growing at the moment of conception. And it is I know it's controversial out there, but that's what I believe. I believe life begins at conception. Life is starting to move. Life is starting to, it's starting to grow, and it's starting. I don't care if it's 1 cell, 2 cell, 3 cell, 1 cell, 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, 16 cells.
Or the trimester.
And so, all I'm saying is that that life deserves the chance to happen.
Yep.
And it's no matter how it was created. So anyway, that's what I want to come to. But let's go to a
new segment. So Meade County local stuff that's happening. I just want to talk for a minute. I'm on a board. You're on a board. I'm doing the Animal Control Advisory Board, and I want to talk about our last meeting we had. There was an article in the paper that thank you for the Meade Messenger for doing that. I think you guys are getting covered in the Meade Messenger. You're with the
we were covered last week as well for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Yes. Now
the cool thing is we're tasked with trying to build a new animal control shelter by March of 2026. So that's like less than 2.5 years. And with that goal, I'm on the chairman's seat. I got Cheryl in the vice chair, and I've got several committees, and they're all doing a great job. We actually had revised the animal control ordinance, and it had its first reading at fiscal court. So I think that was last week, yeah. So a lot of things are happening with ours, and then we've got a new director. Because we've always had animal control officers, but we've never really had a director. And I think that
so let's talk about that a little bit.
We're getting a new person.
Let's come back to that a little bit when you get a chance.
Which director?
Talk about the difference between a director and an officer.
So an animal control officer is the person that you'll meet out in the streets. They're the ones that will, if you've got livestock loose.
They're the front lines.
They're the front lines. They're the people that will collect the animals, the strays, and other situations, and try to do the best by the animal. But the important part is that we get the animal back to its home. But in a lot of cases, we have animals that belong to somebody, but they are not well taken care of. And the ordinance puts
That's the flip side of it.
That is the flip side of it. And there are... if you're going to have an animal, there are responsibilities that go with it. And a lot of that is also protecting the animal. So our ordinance I think it's pretty fair, but it also holds businesses accountable that care for your animals. So you can't just run like a puppy mill or anything crazy like that. You got to keep it clean. It's got to look presentable. That goes for our vets.
It's got to have good hygiene. Got to have cleanliness.
So we now included, which I'm proud to say, is dog groomers, grooming shops, any type of commercial business that is profiting from any commercial sales related to animal care is going to be, have to have a license inspection and make sure that their facilities are on the up and up, which I think is the first time ever that's really good. And then, of course, most of the ordinance was original, but we've had a lot of lines through it. It's never really updated into print, so we updated a lot of that. We gave clear guidance about those individuals that are running like boarding facilities, and then those private individuals that are running, some people will raise dogs to sell them.
Yeah.
And run litters and stuff like that. So there's rules of engagement for that too. And then for folks that are harboring lots of animals in an itty bitty living space, I will tell you the gig is up. You better get your stuff cleaned up because now we've included language to include odor, sound, and things of that nature that are disruptive to other neighbors in the community.
You have to be good neighbors.
That's
you
right.
can't. I know we're out in the rural area, but you still have to realize that this is the while we still consider ourselves a farming community, we don't have like a lot of big farms anymore. There's a lot of these farms have been sold off and into 3, 4, 5 acre tracts, and
that's right.
And those houses are closer together.
Yep.
I agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said. The only thing I worry about is sometimes you've got an established business. Now, obviously, you still have to keep it clean and be hygienic.
Absolutely.
Those things are always things that you should that an ordinance to do. But let's say I had everything going. I didn't have to worry about sound and things like that and odor. And all of a sudden, now I've got 15 houses that are built next to me. Right? I was here first. So
no, right.
There's got to be some grandfather or something in that.
So
right?
We're not talking necessarily about businesses. We're more talking about the non-commercial folks that are holding or raising multiple animals, and it's also to identify those individuals that might be hoarding animals, etc. Because that exists in a county. There are people, God love them, they just love animals and they don't want to see them get hurt, so they keep feeding them. And cats will multiply. They will have 8 litters in a year at about 6 to 8 kittens. So spade and neuter is kind of an important thing.
They're right there with rabbits.
Yeah. So most of that's why they talk about spade and neuter your animals. Farms, it's best to just go get the cat. Go, if you find a stray cat, trap it, get it spayed and neutered, put it right back where you got it from. They will find out how to eat on their own. They've been doing it all since they were kittens. They'll figure it out. But if you can trap them, spade and neuter them, and put them back, they'll eventually die
off. At least you're not perpetuating it into the future.
That's exactly right.
And you're still treating the animal humanely.
The ordinance does give certain powers to the animal control officer that they did not have before, such as rights for search and seizure under warrants and things of that nature, and that the county can find those individuals that are found in non-compliance of the ordinance and actually put some money back into the county for.
I was going to ask you about money. If we is there a program or grant money or anything like that that's coming that will help for like spaying and neutering? If you find a stray, we want to take it into, you trap it, you take it in and have it spayed or neutered, and now is there monies for that, or am I going to have to pay for that out of my pocket?
No, that's not going to be the responsibility of the county. I mean, the county does have monies in their budget already set up for those things within the budget for the animal.
But a program of some sort.
Yeah, so I'm a
homeowner.
Let me get there. So we did as a board, we were going to develop a 501c3 so that we could raise funds separate from the county. If I go to the county as a concerned citizen and I give them money for the Meade County Shelter, guess what? It's not going to the Meade County Shelter. It's going to the general fund. Unless I give them the money and I say I want the walls painted at the Meade County Shelter. Well, then the county has to paint the walls. So if I gave them $5,000, they've got to go put $5,000 worth of paint on the wall. They can't spend a nickel on it on anything else, and they can't hold it. They got to go. It's really weird. But
if I gave them $5,000 for the shelter to build the shelter.
No, yeah, you could say that.
I can say that, and it's the same thing, right? So if I can say I want to earmark this for this, I'm going to give you this money, but I want it to go to this.
You can only spend it on the new shelter. You have to do that if you're donating money to the county. Now, what we wanted to do was generate a 501c3 so we could go raise money as a board. Now the board we try to keep separate because that board serves at the pleasure of the judge executive. The 501c3 shares the same common. Now, we were in an interesting situation because Pets in Need Society, or AKA PENS, was actually originally formed like we were as a board, but many years ago, many of the citizens of Meade County came together and started the PENS, Pets in Needs, and Pets in Needs actually has a program for spade and neuter. And our partners at Hardin County have even, they have a veterinarian at their facility. So they're working with our facility on Wednesdays to actually get some animals spayed and neuter. So when we adopt a pet that hasn't been claimed, we can actually get them spayed, neuter, and almost a whole vet workup so that they can be adopted.
But that's coming through the pins.
That's with assistance through pins. That's exactly right. So our board's gotten a lot accomplished to help try to offset. And the best part is that we're not reaching into situations that create a tax problem for our county, requiring additional funds. Now, some would say, well, we added another person, though, didn't we? Doesn't that cost money to pay a salary? Well, I would say that based off the budget that they've had for the last 3 years for the animal control shelter, they've never successfully properly spent their budget, mainly because they didn't have a director.
So you found that there was money already there for a director that just wasn't being used for a director, so it was just not being used.
The current person that was in charge was not exactly, trying to, I would say, be fiscally responsible with the money and use it to better the animals. We had a high kill rate at the shelter. There was not a lot of adoptions, and they're doing a much better job at adoptions, and that's where a lot of the concerned groups were getting involved, and there were some problems with the shelter. Long time the shelter hasn't been, it's been, as long as nobody's hearing nothing about it, it's not a problem, leave it alone.
It was out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind, absolutely. But now, we're moving in the right direction. We've got a great animal control shelter director, and we got great ACOs. I think there's a new job open for an ACO for that should get hired here pretty soon. But at the end of the day, the board has done a lot of great work. We're moving in a forward direction, and the county is much better for it. I will say that the ordinance, this already existed, so don't hate the board. But there's actually a requirement that if you own a dog, you're supposed to register your dog annually. And they made you do it like on the June 1st of every year. And that was so the county could keep up with how many registered dogs.
But why do you have to register your dog every year?
It's a fee, a county tax fee or a fee.
To own a dog.
To own a dog, you have to keep your dog registered, which makes sense because if your dog's registered, it gets lost, the shelter can quickly find it and place it back. Exactly. So the dog is property.
I'm rolling my eyes at that.
I understand. We didn't write that. But what we did do for the ordinance is because that exists, and we didn't want to change that, is that you can get the license when you do your rabies shots updates or your annual shots updates, and you don't have to, do this and then come back 3 months later to the vet or someplace to buy a dog tag.
That makes at least a little bit more sense.
So your tag.
I'm still not so sure about taxing my dog every year.
But
I understand where you're coming from as far as dog owners are. The animal control is expected to capture dogs if they get lost and help them find them. And so as part of that, this helps pay for that. I understand. So it makes sense.
Yep.
But I'm not a dog owner, so I get it. And
what would also be helpful?
I'm just glad you're not taxing me for it. So.
Do you have a dog?
I don't. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm just I'm glad
exactly.
the alternative is for you to tax everybody. So.
No, that's exactly right. And that was recommended for the ordinance. And but there were several people that shot that down because nobody wants to tax everybody. That's like school tax. I pay school tax, but it doesn't go toward my kid because my kid goes to private school. So guess who's getting all that money?
Yeah, I understand.
So at the end of the day, we did.
It's not the teachers.
No, it's not the teachers.
The teachers aren't getting that money.
No, I know.
They're building a lot of nice buildings. I'm just saying. That's another pet peeve.
But the idea is that we're not burdening the taxpayers. We're burdening the owners. But honestly, most owners will do what's right. They'll pay for it. And here's an interesting fact. The county, even though they have this, and a lot of discussion about why we should have it, why we shouldn't have it, was brought to the table. We even opened up the room for special guests and visitors. And obviously, if there's an objection to this, and the first reading has taken place, so it's publicly available. If you're listening to this, go pull it down, look at the ordinance. If you don't like it, then show up at physical court and make your complaint to the magistrates for any edits or whatever. But we think we've done everything we can as an advisory board to advise the county on what we should do. Is everybody gonna, do what they're supposed to? I don't know, but there are certain things that will hold people accountable if they're not taking care of their animals, and I think that's really what we got to get after.
Well, I think we all agree. I think most of us agree with that. Maybe all of us don't.
We don't want to see dogs fighting.
We don't want to see. Yeah, we want to make sure. We want people to have pets. We want the pets to be healthy. We want the pets to be, to live long lives, and but we want to also be able to confine these things into, keep them from getting into a situation where you just have puppy mills that are not regulated, that are not. And I get that. There's a lot of people out there that I've known several people who have raised puppies, and they do it out of their house. Yeah. They do it. And they most of them try to do a very good job, and they try to keep it with all the laws and regulations. There's a few out there that don't, and that's what you got to.
More importantly,
they'll end up just populating overpopulating, and they're not getting cells, and then those dogs end up, either running wild or having to be put down, and that's a bigger shame.
Yeah. More importantly, when you go to the parks provided by the Parks and Recreation, this is my transition to you, Mark. You can see the fact that you're gonna, if an animal control officer comes to the parks and they see a dog without tags, they're going to come up to you and say, does your dog have its tags? And you have to provide proof, or otherwise you're going to get fined, that you have the rabies shots and necessary shots, which means that the children who are playing at the park will be held, it provides a safer community environment by knowing that, that the people who are dog owners are doing the right thing because we have this ordinance in place. And if you're not, you're going to pay for it.
Well, let me,
so speaking of that,
parks,
talk about the parks.
So as you alluded to earlier, I'm a member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
You're the vice chair, aren't you?
I'm the vice chair. I won't go through the whole list of everyone that's involved, but there was a nice write-up in the Meade County Messenger, not this week, but the week before.
Last week.
And it listed out all of us that were there and members. But there's quite a few people from the community, well-known people from the community. I was asked to be on because I represent softball as far as
church league
softball. I run the local church league, Meade County Church Softball League. There's people that run the youth baseball program. There's people that are for both Brandenburg and Florida. It's a great cross-sectional group of people, and we're not just focused on baseball and softball, or soccer for that matter. We're focused on and I don't want to butcher his last name, but Eric, I can't remember how he pronounced his last name. He is the
director.
He's the chair of our group, and he's into cycling, right? So he brings a lot of experience around trail cycling and such, and races, and then and then there's other folks that are been part of the school system and worked with different sports at the high school and middle school. There's people that are interested in archery. There's people that are interested in just providing safe hunting environments. So it's all inclusive group, this big cross-sectional people. So what we've done so far, we met the first time just to kind of organize ourselves. The second time we met, which was this last that's about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we have another meeting coming up in October, and it is open to the public, by the way. Our normal meeting time is the first Thursday of each month. It is at 5:30, and we're scheduling at the extension office, but it looks like we're probably going to move that over to the Chamber of Commerce building because we have better access over there. Although the extension office is actually a very comfortable place and nice and centrally located, but the Chamber of Commerce is right across the field from it. So either one works really well, and as long as we can have good access and become very the idea here is to become more stable, so that we're having the meetings on time every month, and we're able to have them in the same place, so that people will know how to come out and participate.
Predictability.
So, a couple of the things that we did on this last meeting was we did what we call a SWOT analysis, which is you
strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
So you look at your strengths and your weaknesses, which are mostly your internal. Mostly your internal things, right? So my strengths and weaknesses, this is what I'm good at, this is what we're not so good at. Your opportunities and your threats are usually external things that might come up in the future that would be an opportunity for us to improve or to do something new, and then that aren't part of us today. And then the other piece is threats. That's going to be things like environmental things. Money is always a big one. Where do we get the money to maintain parks and buy land, or to maintain land and develop land for parks? Those type of things. So so we went through this SWOT analysis, and there's a lot of good things that we're strong at in Meade County. One, we have some very good baseball fields and softball fields. We don't have enough, which is kind of a weakness. But we do have so we've seen but we have some very nice facilities. We give a lot of credit to our former parks director, Dan Lancaster, who did an excellent job in bringing the parks up to a more modern level. And make sure that we have good drainage. We have they're able to work the fields and such. And now Stephen Powell, who's the new Parks Director, he's picked up that mantle and doing a very good job as well. But we look at things like, how do we not just what the park has today and how we can make those things better, but what new things can we be looking at? Pickleball, for instance, is a big one. Pickleball has become a very popular sport, but we don't have a lot of pickleball, courts or anything available. Cycling, there's not a lot of, there's no road cycling.
Tennis courts.
Tennis courts, we've had tennis courts in the past, but they didn't get used very often.
No, but in the wintertime, you could put water on them and make them an ice rink. And then you can play hockey.
Yeah, well, you could do that with pickleball too, I guess. But
given the amount of ice we get instead of snow here, we should just do some ice courts so we can have us a hockey league in the winter.
It just doesn't last long, though. We only have a couple weeks.
You only got to put a couple of inches of water across the top of it, and it's good to go.
But it doesn't stay cold enough. It'll be 70 degrees.
That's right, just in time for a hockey game.
Well, not very much. Anyhow, so
that was a distraction. I'm sorry.
I know. I don't know why you're distracting me for.
I'll take it back.
Yeah. So things like boat ramps, archery facilities,
canoeing and kayaking.
Canoeing and kayaking; those are big things. So, and one thing that came up that we're exploring, and it's going to be talked about over the next couple of months is. The Fish and Wildlife took over Arctic Creek Park several years ago, and but they really focus on the fishing and wildlife part of it, right? So they open the park up to hunting at certain times a year. They run the gun range out there on the Muldrow side of the creek, and those things they do a really good job with. But the things that they don't do very well or aren't focused on anyway are like camping. So the camping areas have gone down. The splash pad, they don't have that. That's not operating anymore. The restaurant that was back there has basically
destroyed.
It's all but gone. And you could have saved that multi-million-dollar facility with a roof, right? I mean, if they just would have had a nice roof on the facility, or at least had an upkeep of the roof, then they probably could have kept that facility, and it'd be a nice place. It'd be a nice place to have to host and such. But now at this point, you pretty much almost have to gut it or tear it down and start over if you wanted to put something back there.
Which is sad.
Anyway, there's lots. There's a boat ramp there. There's There's different camping.
Is the boat ramp at the creek or boat ramp at the?
The boat ramp is on the river at the bottom of the bottom
on the Ohio.
So the creek, the park goes all the way to the Ohio River. The restaurant was up on the hill.
Yeah.
And the boat ramp is at the bottom. So
I always thought it'd be cool to drop in there, just float down to Brandenburg. Then you get out, you get some ice cream. You could do a float trip.
Well, I mean, that'd be nice if Brandenburg had a place for you to get out. There's no place.
There's a ramp.
Out. There's not a ramp, but there's no place to tie off. There's no wharf or anything.
No, I know. I meant like in your kayak. You never.
Oh well, absolutely.
You never tie off.
Yeah.
You just drop in and then you float down, and that's a good little paddle. You do an hour paddle, probably not even that long if the current's flowing on the Ohio.
No, you're right. You're right. It's not bad at all.
I think would also be cool is if you could go from Otter Creek to the Buttermilk Falls Trail, and then all the way down to West Point, but you got to go all across that Fort Knox land, because then you could do what's called bike packing. Bike packing. You camp out along the route that you're biking, and then all the way. You could actually connect to West Point. West Point could be a camping stop. Then you go all the way up into Louisville, and you turn around, and come back, and you start and finish.
See, in Louisville has a lot of trails that they put in for bike trails that allow or bike tracks anyway.
That's right.
So that you can ride, basically all along the river and riverfront. And that's some of the things that we're exploring. It's like, how do we do that and do it safely and make a safe environment? So there is going to be a new cycling area, not at Buttermilk Falls, but just up from that. And they're going to be putting that in the near future. But we're just getting started, and we're looking for ideas. And if there's something that you think that the community needs, a skate park, swimming pools, pickleball courts, and
hockey arena,
and not just in Brandenburg. And that's the other thing that we're trying to focus on, is not just put things in Brandenburg.
No, it could be in Akron or in Flaherty,
what can we put? Can we put something in Akron that will draw folks to a park in Akron? Is there things in Battletown that we can build up? And I know that a lot of people say, well, there's not a lot of people out there, but there's no reason that we can't build up these other communities.
Yeah, I think it'd be neat to rotate the church league. You go from the quadplex out to the,
Yeah, I mean, if we had a ballpark in Akron, that's maintained and we can. Now here's the thing: it costs money to buy it, build it up, and it also costs money to maintain it and have, if you want to have. Concessions and things like that. So you have to think about those things as well. But there's ways to work around. That's what we're here for. That's why when somebody says, "Hey, we want to put," let's say somebody said they want to put a ballpark in Akron. Well, that's great. Let's see what type it is. What size is it? Maybe we're expanding Flaherty and putting putting some more, maybe a couple softball fields out there somewhere. Maybe we're putting some sort of building up Battletown Park with like an amphitheater or something where you can have some events out there. And it just depends on what those things are and where they are and how we can look at it. But nothing's off the table at this point. Right now, it is we're just gathering information. We're just trying to find out what do we have, and that's what the SWOT analysis was about. What do we have? What are we good at? What are we not good at that we do today? And then what are the things that we might want to do in the future? And what is going to prevent us from being successful?
What did you guys come up with for threats?
So threats, mostly it's about money. It's about environment. It's about support, widespread support. There's things that are there are things that money is always going to be a big one, but then you have environmental aspects too when you're talking about using land and such for different things. Right. So those things are the main things, but and it's just a general there's still somewhat of an attitude in Meade County from some folks of do we really need that, or do we deserve that, or But I'm one of those that's like, well, why not? Why can't Meade County have these things? And I get it. It costs us money, and things. But there's a way. There are grants out there. There are things out there, and that's what we're here to explore. We're going to say this is what we want to do, and then we're going to identify how do we how can the county pay for it without dipping into the general fund or what have you on that are for things that are earmarked for other things. So we want to try to do the best we can and be good stewards with the money and the resources that we've been given.
Yeah. So, well,
next meeting is supposed to be the first Monday in October. But it's going to be the second Monday in October, or I'm sorry, the second Thursday in October. It's normally the first Thursday of October of each month, but because it's fall break, a lot of people will be traveling and going out of town. We are going to be moving it to the following week, and I believe it's going to be on that Thursday. But you should look in the newspaper. I believe it'll be published in the newspaper, or other media to be able to let people know when we're going to actually meet and where we're going to be. So
very cool. Speaking of meeting. Closing it out for the night. Just wanted to remind everybody the parks or the Ramble by the River is going on down on the waterfront.
The
this
Ramble
weekend.
or the Rumble?
The Rumble.
The Rumble?
I like to ramble.
You like the Ramble?
It's the Rumble by the River car show and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's going to be Saturday. It's going to be great. It's usually a great time, and I believe it's at Brandenburg Park down at the Riverfront Park.
Absolutely.
Park. It's where it usually is. I think last year they couldn't get a date down there, so they moved it up to Meade Olin Park. But I think it's back down by the river this time. But look in your, I think there was a big write up in the Messenger this week.
You can even look it up on Facebook.
So yeah.
And then the other thing I'd like to talk about is Journey Church.
So Journey Church will be having our. We will be having our Roberts Family Farm
chili cook-off, fall festival,
and just a fall retreat out at Roberts Family Farm on Sunday.
Great opportunity if you're looking for a home church. If you're out there,
a bowl of chili. There's usually plenty of food.
Now listen, if you love Jesus, I'm going to tell you this is a good place to be because we love some Jesus, and Jesus in us makes some good chili, and I can tell you that you will get your good fill there. We have a great pastor. Pastor Ryan does a great job. We've even got ourselves up online.
Yeah.
We've been up online, but now we're up online. High five.
We are in high definition.
Woo! I tell you what, check us out. I think it'll be a good time. That's a shameless plug for the church, but I love it. It's non-shameless if you love Jesus.
That's right.
Anyway, and then Monday night, PENS, Pets in Need Society, or Pets in Needs, is going to be holding it's like a picnic. It's a 5 o'clock picnic. But if you'd like to, go to their website or on Facebook at PENS, Pets in Need Society for Meade County. They are going to have their meeting at 6, but they're going to have a little cook, hot dogs and burgers kind of thing. And just RSVP if you're going to go. And that's on Monday. And then you will see us next Thursday right here again.
Yeah, we will be right back here. I do have one more thing I wanted to make sure to mention.
Go ahead.
There is going to be an adult and teen challenge. They're going to have their annual fundraiser, which is they usually have a dinner, and it's going to be in October as well. I'm just trying to find where that's at. They will have a silent auction, and it looks like it's going to be on October 12th at 6 p.m. And you can help by donating a basket or items for the silent auction. You can call 270-941-0000 and send a message or comment. Let us know if you have questions you want or you want to donate.
Yep.
It's Adult and Teen Challenge. They'll have that's October 12th. And that's their second annual. So for those who are familiar, Adult and Teen Challenge helps women, young women, before they go to jail or that are addicted to drugs and want to have a faith-based program to help them get over their addiction.
And find some Jesus.
And find some Jesus and find some health.
So, Speaking of health, if you want a healthy Kentucky, you got to get out and vote. And coming
That's
up,
right.
if you got an email this week and you're a Republican, you got it from Cheryl Whalen. She's reaching out. She's trying to put together our call teams and our door knocking teams. If you feel as strongly as we do about the candidates for the Republican Party running in this general election on the first Tuesday following the first Monday of
November 7th of this year.
That's right. Then you need to get out and help us knock on doors and tell them about all the candidates that we have ready to make a difference for Kentucky.
That's right.
We own the House. We own the Senate. Now let's take the headquarters at the top.
We need you to vote Republican. Pull the straight Republican ticket. Let's send Daniel Cameron to the governor's house.
So.
And retire Andy Beshear.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't worry about the national politics. It'll take care of itself. We just need to make sure we protect Kentucky.
That's all. We should always worry about closer to home first.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great evening. Y'all have a good night.
Good night, everybody.